Hey everybody, Steve here from The Varied Life. I'm Steve, the retired tech hobby guy, and yeah, we're playing around with the K10 from Wainlux. And today I decided to do a lot. And what we're going to talk about here is doing photos and engraving that on slate. Now, it's one thing to, to do little pictures on wood and to dial in using your test grids and, doing some cut tests and things like that to get some pretty outstanding work. But it's a whole nother thing to start doing pictures because there's so much involved in that process. It's not just a simple drag, drop, print. There are some steps involved in it. You have to process the picture, and this is after you do the material test print on whatever you're printing on. In this case, we're going to be using slate. So jumping into this live, I'm going to show you what I'm doing, and we'll see what the results yield. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get to it. What we're going to be using today is the image.r .com, and this is a site where you can prepare some pictures for different materials. It's just not for slate. They have wood, glass, they have all types of different materials, and there's ways that you can process your image to get the most optimal results. Now again, there's going to be a bit of a learning curve where you're going to have to adjust some levels and find what works and what doesn't. But this will get you a lot closer than just slapping a picture and hoping it prints well. So I'm going to show you what I end up doing. Now, there's basically 6 steps to this process. You're going to upload your photo to this website. By the way, it's free for X amount of times. They also offer a paid version of it, but it's kind of pricey. But just for hobby's sake, the next thing, you would crop the picture, you would resize it, you can set your DPI. You could add some text to this as well, and we might do something like that. Choose the material that you're going to be printing on, and then download the image and engrave, and we'll see how that works out. So what we're going to end up doing is basically this right here. Here's a picture of me and the wife here in Korea, and this is a street that has a bunch of ginkgo trees, and they turn yellow and orange. Matter of fact, we're going to go there this week. So what we're going to end up doing is taking this, and all we got to do is just drop it onto the page. And this will load up eventually. At least that's what we're hoping. Okay. And there is our picture. So now that we've done that, we don't want to print this entire thing because what we're going to be doing is doing some slate, round slate coasters. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to go to crop. And with this crop feature as it comes up, we'll just go down here and we'll just do like a 3/4 shot type of thing. We'll kind of drag this over here. We'll kind of keep those people out and try to have equal distance on both sides, which looks close enough for government work. And I think we should be okay. Now, the other interesting thing here is that you can set the width and the height by entering in the pixels, or it could be inches or millimeters. So that's kind of nice. You could do an automatic square crop. So if you're doing something like on a square coaster, that would help you in that aspect. Then down here, we have the round the edges. So we could round the edges so it could go onto a square tile, but just have those rounded edges would just be a little bit more, I don't know, aesthetically pleasing. But we could go all the way to the extreme and end up having a circle. And then, we could move the circle around. We could zoom in a little bit more into something like that. So we get more of a close-up on the people in the picture. And I think that could work out right there. And use the grid lines that are on here. It's kind of squared off to try to keep the center of the picture. And I think that'll work out well. So we're just going to go ahead and we're going to hit crop. And once that processes, we're going to go on to the resize. So when we go to resize, what we can end up doing, one of the most important things that I'm learning is DPI. And DPI is dots per inch. and it's set to 300. And usually what people are saying that I've seen on social media or the Facebook groups for, printing pictures on slate or other materials, you want to keep it about 300 to 350. So we're going to go 350. And the whole idea behind that is that if you have a higher DPI, you can always reduce that later in LIghtburn. But you can't do the opposite. You cannot have a picture that is like 200 DPI and then take it into LIghtburn because you won't get the optimal results. Yeah, you can set it to a higher DPI, but it's always better to go high and then reduce, then try to do it otherwise. So the next step that we have is there's our picture, and what we can end up doing is we can kind of zoom in and kind of take a look at what we got, and we can see the picture of the wife and me. And then you have all these settings off to the side. You can invert, you can mirror, you can auto adjust, color correction. What we want to do is we want to try to just play with the sliders and try to we can see how like my face on this side is kind of blown out. So maybe we want to adjust some of the gamma so let's get a little bit darker so we can get a little bit more detail and lose some of that washout on there. And the same thing, we can go to contrast. If we go to one extreme, it'll get too dark, but if we go the other direction, it'll not do well. So with that, we'll just kind of play around with that, and we want to get, I don't know, let's try 15 and see what that ends up, if I can get it on 15, maybe 14. Okay, so we can see the difference between the original and the adjusted picture. And then the same thing, we could go through and we could take the brightness down a bit, or we can increase the brightness. And we don't want to lose a lot of details by blowing things out, but we got a little bit of darkness in there, so maybe we'll take this up a little bit. And we look at kind of the details there. Yeah, I think that should be okay. So we got a little bit more color in the cheeks and give some more definition and contrast. And then we could do some denoising. Some people have recommended this, but if we go ahead and hit apply, and what that'll do is really it's kind of like a filter that will just smooth over everything. And I'm not sure if I like that. So let's just try to go to 4, and we'll see what that does. It smooths out some of the areas. Maybe 3, maybe 2. Okay, I think that'll work. And then the other thing that we could end up doing is sharpening. You also have these one-touch processes that you could do the same thing. You have a method 1 and method 2, but I think this is going to work out well. Now we could add some text to this. So with the text, let's say you could choose a variety of different things here, and let's just say, I don't know, because I wasn't planning on doing text. Let's just go for that. Font color. That's going to be hard. Because if we do that, then what's going to end up happening bold, and we'll end up, but that's going to be really problematic because we're doing this on slate, which is a black color, and we don't have a lot of area in which this would really stand out, maybe on like that, but I think we'll just skip that. So we'll just go on to the next step, which is the material. You have all these different types of selections, and so you have old, you have Norton, and it says mostly used on dial lasers, CO2 lasers, banning algorithm, and different types of how they prepare your image in these different algorithms or formulas. And we're just going to go with Norton, and we're going to go with black slate. So we're just going to go ahead and hit OK. And now what this is going to end up doing, the great thing about image art is that now we have the picture, but you have to have a negative of the picture to be able to print on a dark surface, because on the dark surface, the things that are white need to be black and black need to be white. So it's going to reverse that image, and that's what we end up having there. Could be interesting with a lot of black in the hat. We'll see how this goes. And then you could further go back to these different areas and resize and recop, or resize and recrop and add text. But this one over here is pretty interesting because you can preview with the material. So you have the choice of black slate or black granite. And since we're doing slate, we're hoping, fingers crossed, this is what it's going to look like. So we'll just go ahead and close that up. And now we can go to the download. And then you could download as a BMP, as a PNG, or JPEG. And you just download that, then drag that into LIghtburn. What we ended up doing is already doing that process, and I've dragged it into LIghtburn. And remember, the K10 has an 80 by 80 millimeter engraving area, which is basically 3.14 by 3.14 inches. And there's some things that we need to do here. So this is already on the layer. We already centered it in there. So we'll double click. And what we have found is that for slate at a speed of 5,000 at 50% power is pretty good. And then it talks about the overscanning. I just leave that at the default. And here's the interesting thing is what we want is this pass-through. So if we don't leave pass-through, then we can do the line interval. It'll increase the DPI. And that can work. It might not. I don't know. But the people that I've been watching on social media and videos that do slate and do engraving, way more experience than me, they suggest just doing the pass-through because the Image R website already has done all the processing for you. And so you don't even have to worry about setting the threshold, the image mode, like threshold or dither, Jarvis, all of those things. Because each of those can have a different effect on how the photo looks on your material. So with pass-through, that's one less step that you have to worry about. So we'll double check everything. 5,050, we don't have air assist, and I think we're good. Okay. So now what we can end up doing is taking a look and seeing how this is going to look on our preview. So we hit the preview. That's not bad. Remember, the white is going to be black, black is going to be white, and we can see through using the slider how this is just going to go back and forth until it processes the image, and we should be good to go. This should take 19 minutes and 27 seconds. And if we take a look at our laser, we already have the laser, the slate in there. We've already adjusted the height for the focus on the material that we're engraving, and I think we should be good to go. Let me double check and make sure that I have that it's centered in there. Just a little bit of an adjustment. And I think we should be good. Okay, so now that we've got that set, what we're going to end up doing is taking a look, and let's put another overlay on here of our camera B. And with that, we can take a look because we're going to make sure that the laser is going to be, basically that the material is in a position where the laser is going to be able to print all that. And that's where we come down to the frame button. So if we hit frame and we watch the laser, it'll go over the square area of the entire engraving area, and we're good to go on that. If we hit the frame with the circle, then what that'll do is go over the area of what is actually going to be engraved. Now, this is still going in a square, but that's because of the picture has been saved and it's in a square format, even though the background is transparent and we have a round photo that's going. So we're good enough on that, and I think we're good to go. So we're just going to go ahead and press start. And it says cut might be out of bounds due to overscan settings. I think we'll just go ahead and say yes, and it's going to go ahead and start. And there we go. We're off and running. If I get the manual focus on this. I think that's about as good as we're going to get there. So it is starting out, and in about 19-20 minutes, we should find out how this is going to print. This will be really interesting because this will be the first photo that we end up doing, and we'll see how it goes. Hopefully it'll turn out well. Anyway, I'll be right back. Give me a couple minutes and you can keep an eye on the engraving. Alrighty, we're back. This will be interesting to see how this works out. Another thing that I was considering was, depending on how this works, is to maybe isolate me and the wife by making everything in the background transparent. And sometimes you can do that with a photo where you can take a picture. And I'm on a Mac, so the cool thing about that is on a picture you can, let me see if I can find an example and show you what I'm talking about. What you can end up doing is taking a picture and then you could remove the background by doing a quick action. And I gotta find a decent picture. So let's see how that works. That's the problem with so many pictures, and I want to try to find a good one that'll really highlight how that works. Okay, let's try this. So we have this picture of me and the wife. So there's me and the wife. We go to the gym, we work out, we have fun. But with that picture, oh, where'd it go? Oh no, seriously. You gotta be kidding me. The joys of, I know it's after this. It was right up here. Seriously. Oh, it was recent, that's why. So it's going to bring that all the way up to the top. I'm sorry. So anyway, there's the picture there. And what I can end up doing is right-clicking it and going down to quick actions, and I can remove the background. Now, through this, what we can end up doing is we double click on this, and now we've got the picture with the background removed. So that can be one way. I don't know if it works the same way on PCs, but maybe it does. But it does a pretty decent job as far as, you know, taking the background out of things. But that might be a tool that could be useful to you when you're processing pictures, or if you just want the people and not what's in the background. That can come in handy. So yeah. And then over here on LIghtburn, it'll show over here the status of the laser. So it says we've done 4 minutes and 58, 59, we've done 5 minutes. And then in the brackets, it says that we got 14 minutes and 23 seconds and counting. So I like that type of status to give us an update on what is going on. The CutLab X software that comes with the Wainlux K10, which is a little 5-watt laser, doesn't have that. It doesn't give you an estimate like it does in the preview with LIghtburn of how long it's going to take, or the current status of time expired and time that is remaining on it. But LIghtburn does, and I enjoy that. So here we are back. And it's not looking too bad. Not too bad. Again, the final result that could be very different. And it could be the luck of the draw that you know, beginner's luck that we get a good photo engraving on slate. Now, I will say that this slate is a piece that I kind of used as a test print, and when things didn't work out right, I just go ahead and sand the slate down and then print again and practice and so on and so forth with like clip art and things like that. I've done some other coasters that turned out pretty well, and matter of fact, most of these have been like slate coasters with kind of a clip art and kind of a black and white type of thing that we see here. So as soon as this focuses in, if it will, come on, focus, there we go. So you can see that turned out pretty good, but it's pretty much not a lot of grayscale. And when I made these images, I made sure that it was, like a black and white grayscale type of graphic using AI. And let's see if we can get a close up on this. Focus. Seriously, camera does not want to work today. There we go. So we get some grayscale in there, but not much. But these turned out really well and of course I also did a test print on the back. But this piece of slate, it was my trial and error slate. And the great thing about slate is that if you don't like the image, you can go ahead and sand it down. You'll lose some of that rough texture on the slate that you originally get. And it'll eventually, it's almost like smooth like glass now because I've sanded, printed. It really ends up being a test piece. But we'll see how it turns out with this here. And so far, it could be interesting. I wonder if I turn this light off, if that would be better. Can't really tell the difference. Close enough for government work. So yeah, I'm kind of excited to do this. In a previous video, I ended up doing some glass engraving. You can see that there. And so we did some test pieces, and the glass engraving came out great. I was really surprised. I thought engraving on glass would take a lot longer and there would be more variables involved. But basically, all you got to end up doing is your test grid and finding out which is the best color to use. Now, this is going to be really weird. So there was our test grid, and we have our speed and our power. And just like with any other material, you should do your test grid to find out what is the optimal setting for you and your laser and your material. So that was kind of fun to do, and doing that glass engraving. A lot easier. Of course, it works easier with like clip art with black and white images. So the more simple the clip art image is, the easier it is to do your little glass engraving. Yeah, and that turned out really well. So in another future video, we're going to end up doing, I've got this glass bottle, and I'm going to engrave since it's got 6 sides on this, I found a little artsy type of thing on here, and so we'll engrave that on each side of this, and this will, of course, I engraved the top, and this is our little tea jar, and so that'll be kind of a neat looking thing, but that's going to be coming up next. Now, we don't have the rotary assembly, but that's why I picked that jar out that has the flat sides so I can set it. But with the K10, I'm going to have to raise it up to make sure that I can get the laser focused on the glass, because it's kind of a high platform. So that'll be interesting to see how we're going to do that. Other than that, we got about just under 8 minutes to go. Let's go back to LIghtburn and I'll show you some other things. So let's go back to our picture here. And if we click on this, like if we double click on the layer itself, we can stop the pass through and we can increase the DPI by changing the line intervals. So we could actually kind of go like 0.05, and that will give us a DPI of 508. But it's limited by the picture. So it can go through the algorithms and all that stuff to increase the DPI of dots per square inch by doing the math and all of that stuff. But from what people are telling me, that if you have a high DPI graphic, you can always lower it, and that is the most preferred way. So, and again, here you could change some of the things like ordered, Atkinson, Dither, Stuckey, Jarvis, half print, grayscale, all of those things. But we're just going to leave it on pass-through. Now, there is some other things we could end up doing. So if we click the picture and we right-click, we can adjust the image as well. But this will pop up and it'll tell you that it's set for pass-through, is enabled. So you're not going to be able to adjust the image. So we'll go back and we'll disable that, and then when we right click, we're going to go to adjust the image, and here's where you could go through and change some of the settings on this. So you have contrast, brightness, gamma, and then the enhanced amount, which is kind of like a sharpen type of detail, and then you have your different image modes that you can use as well. So like if we went to Jarvis, and we can see what we're going to be adjusting. So if we kind of move up the contrast, and that should change some of the things there, just minor. But again, playing with all this stuff is going to be pretty interesting. And you could try grayscale, and it just comes out to a trial and error type of thing, and that's what I like about the ImageR software, is that it kind of gives you, especially with a material preview, it'll kind of give you an end result. And so it's kind of like, instead of just making a bunch of changes, printing something out and saying, yeah, that doesn't look good, the ImageR website allows you to do that material preview and say, okay, well, that looks pretty decent. And then if it doesn't, you can always just go back to the program, readjust some of those levels, and get a more refined look before you download and print. So in other words, you're less likely, hopefully, to have a screwed up engraving. So that's kind of like what I like about that ImageR. Now the ImageR program, the thing about that is they have the free online version, and I guess you like 2 or 3 different things in a day, but you can also purchase that as a program, but I think it's like $300 or $400. And I don't know if I'm willing to drop that much coin on an image processing. Maybe if I was doing this as a business and I was constantly using it, it might justify the price, but that's just not in my budget right now. So the free version is good for now. So let's take a look and see what we got going on. It's looking a lot better than what I thought for a first time. Especially for a little 5-watt laser. That was a few $100, entry-level laser. Let me drag in the picture to kind of show you what we're looking at here, or going to be looking at. And that would be in the downloads, in the recents. Download. No, that's not the original picture. Let's just get the original picture and post that up there. Bear with me. I gotta go back to my photos and find it. But that is kind of what we're going to be, and it's going to be in a circle, so it's not going to be this whole picture. And I can't crop that, so I'll just leave it up at the top left. Make it a little smaller. So yeah, this is going to be interesting to see how this turns out. Really looking forward to this. And the fact that I can make out I can make out some images and say, hey, that's my hand, and that is encouraging. Let's see if we can focus this. There's a little bit better focus on that. It's one thing to recognize a hand, shirt, but when it comes to the faces, that's where it really comes down to where the rubber meets the road or the laser meets the slate. And how well those process. But the good thing is, once you get an idea and you get enough practice and you can look at a picture and you can end up saying, okay, well, there's our picture, and to get a good print, we know that we have to adjust certain things to get this type of outlook. And yeah, it's just some practice after that. And then once that's nailed down, wow, you could be engraving a bunch of stuff with some great results. So supposedly we got about a minute left, but I don't know. I think we'll run a little bit over on this. But how will this work out? It was pretty impressive. I mean, I didn't think I'd get into laser engraving as much as I am. But just being able to, it's like, how often are you going to use a laser, to engrave something? But more and more I did the coasters. I've got my coasters up there. I did coasters for the wife. So in other words, it had some flowers and a coffee cup, and then on the coffee cup I was able to put her name on there. On another one I put mine, another one I put our daughter's name, and on the last coaster put our last name on there. So that turned out really well. And let me see if I can find, yeah, there it is. So for example, that's a coaster that I ended up engraving, and then I had a round border. I put in a round border, and then of course I just changed, put my wife's name on there, changed that, put my daughter's name, my name, our last name, and those came out really, really good. So I'm really happy with the coasters that we ended up doing. And then you could also, you could coat the coasters with some clear coat, some varnish, lacquer, whatever it is, or you could just leave them plain. Plain, you're going to get that kind of dull look to them, and it won't be as shiny. But the whole idea of the slate coaster is to absorb the condensation from your cold drink on a warm day. So if you varnish your coaster, you're not, that slate's not going to be able to wick up that moisture. But there are some people who have, what they ended up doing was taking their slate coaster, coating it with that lacquer or that clear coat, and then they engrave the image. So in other words, the laser burned off the clear coat, and then they're left with the engraving, so that way the slate coaster could absorb that, and then the rest of the coaster had that kind of shiny semi-gloss on there. And you know, that's an option as well. I think I can recognize the face of my wife on this. So we're getting there. Like I said, I think this is going to run over, and we're about 2 minutes over right now. So maybe we got a couple more minutes left. But not bad though. Not bad, considering. And that's the picture that I ended up doing. Now the good thing about this is with that image R page is that when we drag that color image in there, it automatically converted it to black and white kind of grayscale type of picture. And then depending on the material that you're going to be using, it'll process that and do a reverse image or a negative image. So it's a few less steps that you have to do than you would in LIghtburn itself. And I think LIghtburn is a great program. It is, I'm very impressed with it. I'm still on the 30-day trial. I think I got like 10 days left. But they have two versions that you can buy. One is like $99, and the second version covers different types of lasers. So the first version is like $99. It covers like Barney basic lasers. But the second version is $199, and that will cover like CO2, diode, fiber, every type of laser you could think of. That's the second version. So I'm planning on getting a bigger laser, and we'll see. I'm not sure which one. So yeah, this could be kind of interesting. So I might splurge for the $200 one. I think it depends on the laser I'm going to be getting, because it's November now. It's what, 5 November, and Little Bird told me that there's going to be some new laser engravers coming out in the first quarter of next year. And so kind of hold off on purchasing anything until it comes out, and we'll see how that goes. Okay, lasers going back and forth a little bit quicker and quicker. We're getting towards that apex of the circle. But the question is, will the faces be washed out? Will it be recognizable? Or, you know, what will the quality be? I don't know. Oh, so close, so close. Yep, we're getting up there. So we're on the estimated time. We're running on 24 minutes. And we're done. Okay, so If you thought the glockenspiel little deal there was funny, give this video a heads up or a like. Now we'll take a look and we'll see how it turned out. Ooh. And let's see the results. I'm going to move it over this way. Angle it down a little bit. You can't really see that because of the light. Let's get it back up on the computer. And, okay, let's check this out. Let's get some of that. So here we go. Look at that. Now again, this is a test coaster, so it's extremely smooth. It's been engraved and sanded and engraved and sanded, and that turned out really good. I am very happy with that. And I think if we put some varnish on that, that would turn out great. The one thing I do wish though, is that if it would have a way that you could fade in that circle. So either fade that in or just kind of do a border around it. I'm not sure, but wow, look at that. That turned out really nice. That's definitely a high quality result that we got there. See if we can get it closer. Check that out. Still on my cheek is a little bit blown out, but I mean, you can see, let's see if we can focus. That is not bad. That is not bad at all. Oh, I think the wife's going to like this. And so what I'll end up doing is I'll varnish this to bring out the darker colors, give it a little bit of a satin sheen on here, and yeah, I'm digging that. That turned out really good. So anyway, that's what we ended up doing today, is taking a look at LIghtburn. We took a look at that image-r.com website to process that image, and on the material of our slate coaster. I wish I had one more coaster. Do I? Nope, I don't. But this will have to do. But I mean, this turned out great. And then processing that and then dragging that into LIghtburn after we downloaded it and allowing the pass through so we don't have to do any other changes in LIghtburn, lined up our material and hit print, and boom, there we go. That turned out good. So anyway, if you enjoyed the video, I really appreciate that. And if you have questions or concerns, you can contact me through my email. Or if you really enjoyed the video, you can buy me a coffee, which is a link down below. And I do have a list of people who have bought me coffees who are awesome, and they are on the much respect list. So with that being said, if you can't do all that, if you don't want to buy me a coffee, at least at a minimum, give me a like and subscribe on YouTube, The Varied Life, the channel. I'm Steve, the retired hobby technician, retired here in Korea and playing around with some laser stuff. So yeah, we're having fun. So with that being said, like, subscribe, all of that good stuff, and we'll see you on the next video. Peace. Man, that just turned out good.